You know that person who does one small thing, chews too loud, cuts you off in traffic, brags about something at dinner, and you feel a flash of rage that's way too big for what actually happened? That's not about them. That's you meeting a part of yourself you've spent years pretending isn't there. Think about the last time someone really irritated you for no big reason. Maybe it was a coworker who takes credit for things. Maybe it's a friend who never stops talking about themselves. You noticed your jaw tighten. You replayed the moment in your head 3 hours later, writing comebacks you'll never say. And if you're honest, actually honest, some tiny part of you recognized something in that person. A hunger for attention you don't let yourself have. A selfishness you were taught very early to bury. You didn't consciously think any of that. You just felt disgust and moved on and called it their problem. Here's the stranger version of this. You meet someone who's wildly confident, who takes up space without apologizing, who says no without a 3-paragraph explanation, and you don't just admire them, you feel almost sick with envy. Not an I wish I had that envy, something sharper, like they're doing something wrong by being that free. That reaction isn't about them either. It's a part of you that wanted to be that free once and got told somewhere along the way that wanting it was dangerous or selfish or too much. This is what Carl Jung called the shadow. And no, this isn't about crystals or auras or manifesting anything. It's one of the more testable ideas in psychology, and it explains a huge amount of why you overreact to certain people, why some compliments make you flinch, and why you sometimes sabotage things you actually want. Here's the actual mechanism. As a kid, you didn't come into the world with a filter. You cried when you were mad, wanted things loudly, said the blunt true thing without thinking twice. Then you got feedback. Maybe anger got you punished, so you learned to swallow it. Maybe wanting attention got you called annoying, so you learned to shrink. Maybe being too sensitive got you mocked, so you toughened up and stopped crying in front of people. None of this was a conscious decision. It was survival. You kept the parts of yourself that got love and safety, and you pushed the other parts underground. Not deleted, just hidden from your own view. Jung called this hidden collection the shadow, the traits, urges, and feelings you disowned because keeping them made your childhood world safer. Psychologists today would connect this to something called projection, which Freud actually named first, the mind's habit of taking a feeling you can't tolerate in yourself and locating it in someone else instead, so you get to feel the emotion without owning it. If you buried your own greed as a kid because your family shamed anyone who asked for more, you will feel a disproportionate, almost moral disgust at other people's greed as an adult. Not because greed is uniquely evil, because you can't stand seeing it unowned walking around in someone else's body. Here's the part that actually explains your life. The traits you react to most strongly in other people are a map of your own shadow. Not always, not every irritation is deep, but the ones that hit disproportionately hard, the ones you can't shake, the ones where you're still thinking about it at midnight, those are usually pointing at something you buried in yourself. Same goes for envy, just flipped. When you envy someone's confidence, freedom, or ease, you're not envying a stranger's trait. You're grieving access to a part of yourself you shut down. Jung's shadow isn't only the bad stuff, by the way. Plenty of people bury their brilliance, their sexuality, their anger, their ambition, because somewhere it got treated as dangerous. The shadow holds whatever got exiled, ugly or not. Let's go deeper, because shadow work shows up in more forms than "that guy annoys me." One version is moral disgust, the friend who cheated on their partner and you can't stop thinking about how disgusting it is, way past the point that's normal. Ask yourself honestly, is there a version of wanting something you're not supposed to want buried in you that you've never let breathe? Another version is the compliment flinch. Someone tells you you're smart or beautiful or talented, and instead of just saying, "thank you," something in you deflects immediately. "Oh, it's nothing. I got lucky." That flinch is often a buried part of you that was taught early that being seen as good was risky, maybe because a sibling got jealous or a parent felt threatened by your shine. A third one, and this one's brutal, self-sabotage. You get close to something you actually want, a relationship, a promotion, a creative project, and you find a way to blow it up right before it lands. That's frequently the shadow defending its old rules. If part of you learned that success meant abandonment, or that being truly seen meant getting hurt, the buried part of you will quietly protect you from the exact thing you're consciously chasing. Picture a woman named Lily. Growing up, her mother called her too much whenever she got excited, loud, or emotional. Too much crying, too much laughing, too much wanting things. By 15, Lily had trained herself to be easygoing, agreeable, low maintenance. Everyone loved how chill she was. 20 years later, Lily finds herself irrationally furious at a coworker who cries in meetings, who asks for what she needs without apologizing, who takes up space unapologetically. She calls her dramatic behind her back. But the coworker isn't dramatic. She's doing freely the exact thing Lily had to kill in herself at 15 to stay loved. Lily's rage was never really about her coworker. It was grief for the version of herself she wasn't allowed to keep. This is why shadow work isn't some mystical journey into darkness. It's closer to psychological archaeology, digging up what you buried, not to become bad, but to stop being unconsciously run by it. Because here's the thing nobody tells you. What you don't examine, you don't get to choose. It chooses for you. Through overreactions, envy, sabotage, and flinches you can't explain. And this matters even more than it sounds like, because the parts you bury don't stay quiet forever. They leak out sideways in who you resent, in what you can't accept about yourself, in the relationships you keep recreating without meaning to. You're not broken for having a shadow. Everyone has one. The question is just whether you're going to keep meeting it through other people or start meeting it directly. So here's what actually works, and it's not journal about your feelings in some vague way. It's a specific technique adapted from Jungian shadow work, combined with a cognitive behavioral tool called the trigger and trace method. And here's exactly how to do it. Step 1. The next time you notice a reaction to someone that feels bigger than the situation warrants, disproportionate anger, disgust, or envy, stop and name it out loud or in writing within the hour while it's fresh. Write down exactly what the person did and exactly what you felt. Not, he annoyed me. Something specific. He interrupted the meeting to talk about his own project and I felt a hot, humiliated kind of rage. Step 2. Ask yourself this exact question and don't rush past it. Is there any small hidden way I want to do the thing this person is doing? Or have I ever been punished or shamed for doing something like it myself? You're looking for a flicker of recognition, not a full confession. Sometimes the honest answer is genuinely no, and that's fine. Not every irritation is shadow work. But often, if you sit with it for even 30 seconds past your first instinct to deny it, something surfaces. Step 3, instead of judging what surfaces, get curious about when it started. Ask yourself, when did I learn that this trait was unsafe or unlovable? You don't need a therapist's office for this. Just trace it back to any memory where you got the message. Too loud, too angry, too much, too selfish, too proud. You're not trying to blame anyone. You're trying to locate the moment the door closed. Step 4, and this is the part most people skip, practice doing a small, safe version of the buried trait on purpose. If your shadow is buried anger, practice saying, actually, that doesn't work for me, out loud to a low-stakes person, like sending back a wrong coffee order, and notice you survive it. If your shadow is buried ambition, let yourself say one sentence out loud about what you actually want, even if it feels arrogant. The trigger is simple. Whenever you catch that disproportionate reaction, the rage, the envy, the compliment flinch, the urge to sabotage something good, that's your cue to run these 4 steps right then, not later. Here's why this actually works, tying back to the mechanism. Projection only has power in the dark. It runs on you not knowing the trait is yours. The second you name it, trace it, and safely practice it, you take the charge out of it, because psychologically, there's nothing left to defend against. The coworker who cries in meetings stops being a threat once Lily lets herself feel, even a little, in a low-stakes moment. The buried trait stops needing a stranger to carry it for you. You are not the worst thing you buried, and you're not required to like every part of yourself the second you find it. But every part you've been afraid to look at has been running quietly in the background this whole time, deciding who gets under your skin and why. Shadow work isn't about becoming someone darker. It's about becoming someone who isn't secretly at war with themselves anymore. So next time someone gets under your skin in a way that feels way bigger for the moment, don't just get annoyed and move on. Get curious instead. Ask what part of you that person is showing you. That single shift from judgment to curiosity is where the actual work begins. If a specific person came to mind while you were watching this, that's not a coincidence. Sit with that for a minute before you close the tab.